Hello gainers, Ralphie here with some Fit of Philosophy. On the journey, so are you. Let's share a few minutes together in this journey. My subject for conversation is, and I got it written down, the pursuit of the higher self. Often when we describe something positive like the higher self, we put it into the context, the historical, ubiquitous context that hell is down below and heaven is up above. And there's a reason for that, because down below literally is the fall, the tumble, the descent, whereas looking for the Ra, the physical source of all life as we know it, we have to look at the sun, because without the sun there is no life. It's interesting when you look across universal cultures, they have three things in common, and it's part of the chains of eternal wisdom accepted by all species in the universes, and that is, three things are required for consciousness and being. Light is required, which we get from suns, which generates life. And it is only through life that consciousness can create love, which gives purpose to the light. So you have this triptych of three absolutes. And it's something that many humanoid philosophers have overcomplicated, to be honest. But I'd like to simplify it from my own perspective. On my humble journey as a non-intellectual, curious traveller, you see, life is a journey. We go through life making journeys. Journeys by walking, bus, we go on trains, we go on planes, and we regard these as, self-evident journeys. But we rarely stop to consider that our entire life is a journey, and the journey is the vehicle for the purpose, no pun intended, but is the vehicle for the purpose of life, which is simply to experience it. And in experiencing it, we are ultimately in pursuit of our higher selves. So when we're born literally, physically as our lower selves, small, completely immature, but open to suggestion, open to experience, open to education. And it's readily acknowledged by professionals that humans are never more aware or alert than when they're children. Very young children, impressionable children, because it's such a critical time to be learning the skills of life. It's all about survival at the end of the day. But as the pursuit of the higher self moves on, first of all we go into our teenage years, where we're very much indoctrinated by the educational system. In other words, we're taught to read, we're taught to write, if we're fortunate to be part of the world where we have that opportunity. And then we're also indoctrinated with fitting in, conforming to social norms. Religion is very strong in that, making you conform to set goals and standards and objectives. And I'm not criticising it when I say that, because it makes a lot of sense. Because it's the habits and routines in life which gives us the structure and the scaffolding and the framework on which to develop ourselves more objectively, more rationally. But we've also got to never forget the irrational. That's always got to be factored in too. So in the pursuit of the higher self, we reach adulthood, immature adulthood, young, inexperienced, we make our mistakes, we take our tumbles, we're young, we're fit, we can learn from them, and we can pick ourselves up, and we can carry on in pursuit of our higher selves. We want to keep ourselves fit, we want to eat sensible food. Too many people, gainers, don't. They eat crap because they are driven by their instinct for sweetness, convenience, and readily accessible flavours. Pity these people. They tend to prefer breakfast cereal to fresh fruit and vegetables, and inevitably it does impact on their health quite badly over time, in my opinion. I've got to say that. In the pursuit of the higher self, we get older. Some people, you'll notice, they slow down in life. And there's nothing sadder to see an old person that's gone all negative, become introverted, and they've actually given up in life. They're no longer existing. Sorry, they're no longer living. They've started to exist, and that's something very different. And we must always be wary of that happening to ourselves. We can never achieve our higher selves when we are existing rather than living. And living means risk. It means taking a little bit, giving a lot. It means experiencing pain, experiencing losses, and not being consumed by it, by keeping separate and detached from it. And this ties in very well with Stoicism. Don't imagine that Stoicism is the exclusive reserve of the Greeks, the ancient Greek philosophers, and the Romans. It is far, far older than that. In fact, it comes from the parent species of the humanoid collective. But that's another story for another day. I must say, the great thing about a good cliff walk is the views you get. Aren't they fantastic? You see, when we're on the journey of life and pursuing the higher selves, literally, we elevate our consciousness, we elevate our self-expectations, we elevate our discoveries. And as a result, because we're elevated, because we're nearer to the light, quite simply, we see a greater perspective and we get a better view of reality. That is the purpose. Don't think there's a conclusion, by the way. There isn't. The pursuit of the higher self never ends. Not even for the most advanced species in the universe, which is virtually a ball of light, invisible light. You know, they're out there. But again, this is where it gets slightly controversial. But I have had too many interesting conversations over the decades with too many interesting people to censor my view of the world and confine it to the dogma and perspective of the age in which I live. We all know how quickly that dates, don't we, gainers? Anyway, enough of me. I have introduced you to the pursuit of the higher self. How do you do it? Eat a bit less, exercise a bit more, communicate with people and learn from them, whether it's a good experience or a bad experience. Be careful with your friendships. Read genuine information. In other words, forget newspapers. That's all smoke and mirrors. It's books you want to read. You'll soon find them. Find an interesting video and then connect. Look at the comments below and then see what books people are recommending, because books are the least censored media of information available to humans, even in this day and age. The internet is increasingly censored. It's just the reality of it. We've got to live with it. It's to be expected, and frankly, to a certain extent, I can understand it. It's part of the human condition. I'm Ralphie. This is some fitter philosophy. I hope you've enjoyed this. Pop back again before too long, where I shall have yet another subject relating. In fact, I can tell you right now what the subject's going to be. Personal nobility. There we go. personal nobility. That's an interesting one because we don't tend to regard ourselves as noble beings. You know, you've got the noble beasts, the eagles, the bears, the lions, of course, ultimate noble beast. And basically, nobility is the expression of virtue. However, you've also got the aristocracy, who are also called nobility, but there's very little virtuous about them. So I want you to save you from any confusion. I'll certainly be discussing personal nobility. I'm Ralphie, and I shall now leave you with a lovely, lovely view.